The beginning of this year, the beginning of 2025 is being carried by the lore team. There is not a single thing that you can say is coming out right now that isn't a response from the lore team. I think that this is crazy. And also with the reveal that this has been in the works for 2 years. 2 years this has been in the works. That is crazy. That's insane. But the reveals in this episode 5, is not substantial enough for me to cover. Now, we did get the reveal of General's voice, which is the guy from Marvel Rivals Deadpool, which I think is crazy. But let's be real. Let's be very, very real. Doesn't really matter, because no matter what we think, no matter what we're saying, it's still being carried by the lore team. Now, I find it crazy that a lot of Sonic fans are just saying that there's a drought. A lot of Sonic fans are saying that there's a drought because they do not like the content that is happening. Do not fall for the drought idea, okay? That is a bad mindset to go down, because once you say that there's content going on and that content is a drought, well, now if you don't like the content, there's a drought going on. Now, saying that there's a games drought, that's good, that's fine, that's easy, but generalizing it and saying that there's a drought happening overall is very reductive to the conversation that we're having. The conversation that we should be having, and a conversation that is very relevant and very, very noticeable, is the idea that the content that we're getting right now is not enough for people. But a lot of people have decided that it would be better to not explain the fact that this is a drought. That is something they're just not explaining. Everybody who's saying that there is a drought, saying that you do not like the content, doesn't mean that this is a drought. Let's be clear, the General and Vanilla episode is the most useless episode of this series. Now, it builds up character for the Chaotix, but as a person who likes the lore and who talks about the lore consistently, I genuinely do not care about Vanilla and General past the fact that General is a recreation of the Emerald series of robots. Right now, we're not sure how Sega's brand strategy is going to change after the constant and consistent reveal that Sonic games do not sell over 1 million copies if, and I explain this very carefully, if a movie isn't coming out that year. Let's really look at Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, as it only sold 1 million in its first month, but when the movie was coming out, Sonic X Shadow Generation sold 2 million copies in its first month. Now, obviously 500,000 of those are pre-orders, but it is clear that Sega is going to want to change Sonic Team's brand strategy to attempt to consistently sell 3 million copies. And that's why they're taking so long to make this game, because they both want this brand synergy, and then they also want something else on top of that, and I don't know what exactly that is. I think they want the quality control so people start coming back and they get return investments on these games, because let's be real, Sonic Frontiers was the biggest strike they had in a long time, and I would say this objectively, that it was an abject failure to release that game in the state it was released in. But they definitely had to get it out in time to make sure that they capitalized enough on those games sales. Now, there are a lot of other factors and a lot of other reasons why that game sold well, especially when it comes to the music department. That music really sold some copies of that game for people who didn't want to wait for an album to come out. But you guys gotta stop listening to these goddamn YouTubers who are like hyping you up and telling you that you need to be very much excited for the next game this early, because when you do that, you're just training yourself to not care about anything other than the games. And a lot of this other stuff that's going on right now is really cool, except for the General and Vanilla episode. This is the worst episode of the series that came out literally 2 days ago. I am so fucking upsetty spaghetti about that. Okay, it should be better. It should have been better. It could have only gotten better from here, but they decided to break for 2 episodes, and the first one was good. It was a really good break episode, but the second one wasn't. It genuinely wasn't a good episode, and I'm so fucking upset about that. But then you had the Tales Tube come out, and the Tales Tube basically just introduced a lot of the IDW cast in the actual episode themselves, even though I would say this was the most half-assed way of doing it in the world, where Tangle just lists them all off like they're references in a storybook game. Like, bro. but I'm allowed to have problems and still say, this is good content. You should watch the content. Even if you're gonna watch it after it completely finishes, you should watch it because it's really, really, really good. Yeah, but this is just a simple video because it really seems like a lot of people are just gunning for the games. I don't know if they just think all this other content is worthless, because if you genuinely care about the world, you're going to pick up other things about the world. But it seems like right now, people only care about the gameplay. And when you only care about the gameplay, we'll go back to the 2010s era where people only care about playing as Sonic because Sonic is the only one who plays the best out of everyone in every other part of the franchise. So, you know, once we get into that state where only the gameplay matters, the story will falter. Once we only get into that part where the story matters, the gameplay will falter, and people will just be playing for the story, and we'll let the gameplay fall by the wayside as much as possible in order to get good stories from Ian Flynn, because Ian Flynn is a good writer, in my opinion. Kind of dislike Ian Flynn a little bit, but he's a good writer. Though, like, there is so much we can be talking about, and it feels like people are just denying that these things exist because they want a game to come out faster. That's what it feels like to me. If it doesn't feel like that to any of you guys, just say so, but it really does feel like that to me. Yeah, but it really feels like Sonic fans ask for a lot, but then don't realize how much time it's going to take them to make all the models, make all the assets, recreate new things to match the design of Sonic, because you don't want to change Sonic too drastically to where he doesn't fit into the world that he's put in, because they've been going for the same design for a long time, where it goes to modern Sonic dictates how the world looks around him, right? Nothing else really matters. So if they want to change the design of modern Sonic based on their own philosophies, they're going to change the complete and utter world. So they're going to be getting rid of a lot of textures and a lot of the way things look in order to change Sonic's design. And that's just because that's how it seems to look every time they do it. Genuinely, look at how Sonic games go throughout time. Most of the time, Sonic always fits his environment. And that's because whenever they change everything, they build the Sonic model first and then change everything around that. This would be the first time where they're just changing the models and putting them into a new world. And I don't think they want to do that, and I don't think they're gonna do that. Anyway, like, sub, comment, hype the video. Have a great day. I will see you later.